Good morning, everybody. Great to be together. I am here in the swamp still today, getting ready for a Memorial Day weekend. We'll see what kind of family fun we have. I hope you're getting ready to do some things. Some people will be working, some people will be busy, but I hope you will have a chance to observe Memorial Day in some way, at least if only having a quiet time on Monday to recollect those who have given their lives for us, extraordinary people that do that for Americans. Extraordinary. I did an interview this morning, and I said, Memorial Day, people don't die for their political party. They die for their family, their friends, their neighbors. They die for their nation. They put their life on the line. It's an extraordinary thing, and we have a great history of that. So I hope you'll celebrate Memorial Day in a meaningful way. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance to continue our commitment to Memorial Day. Let me get it up here. There's the flag, and in case you are frozen by life, here's the words. And join me by standing, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Let us go back and get rid of that graphic for you. All right. Well, listen, thanks for coming in here, and good to see you today. Make the big deal the big deal. Make the big deal the big deal. I'll talk about who taught me that phrase in a moment. But first, people that are not making the big deal the big deal. Paul Ryan gave a speech yesterday in at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley. My wife grew up about 4 miles from that library. It's in Simi Valley. I think it's just outside of Thousand Oaks, the city in California. It's a beautiful library. It's a incredible space. They've done a great job. They have they have an Air Force one of the Air Force Ones that was retired. So it's a huge hangar on one side, and it's just a great space. Lots of incredible history, and of course, President Reagan and his wife are buried there. Very, very well done. You should visit if you get a chance. Visit, and they host a lot of speakers. I think they hosted a debate in the last Republican primary. I think I might get that wrong, but they host speeches. And Paul Ryan spoke, I think, last night. And like a politician, he gave out the speech as prepared early in the day, so the media could cover it and try to get attention. And as Paul Ryan has shown for a long time now, absolute tin ear to what's happening in America. I mean, just couldn't be a bigger tin ear. He has no, tin ear is a phrase that means you can't hear. You're just not hearing what's happening. It's bouncing off your ear because it's tin. I think that's the way and he just doesn't understand what's going on in the country. Now, it's not a surprise because he thought he was going to be president or vice president or leader, and the party left him behind. But it's still really, 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 really dumb for him to try to be a leader in the Republican Party and say the things he said. And I won't even talk about how ridiculous it is to badmouth Trump and all this kind of stuff, how ridiculous it is to fall for the January 6th hoax. That's a Pelosi move. But here's the thing. Make the big deal the big deal. I saw the prepared remarks. I didn't see the speech. But I don't think he mentioned what is the monstrous big deal at the heart of this moment in our history, which is the communist regime in China, which is now, by all accounts, we're going to find out that it was a man-made virus. Maybe it was accidental to leak. Maybe it was a weapon. We've got fentanyl killing our kids that comes just directly from China. We've got corporations like Microsoft that won't answer the question about $23 or $20 billion a contract with the Defense Department. Are the chips they're using made in China? We've got, we have a nation, America, that is under assault from China. And I talked earlier today with a retired national security pro, a guy who said they consider America Disneyland for disinformation and for influencing what's happening. The Chinese regime does, because they come over here and spend money in universities with influencers. They spend money in manipulating social media. And my point here is, do you think China wants America to fight over whether we're racist or not? Of course they do, because we're not racist. Yesterday on my radio show, I had a woman, Denisha Merriweather, who has an organization called Black Minds Matter. She's an African American. Go look at her site, blackmindsmatter.net, and ask yourself when you read that, say, listen to her. You go to my website, proamericareport.com, and listen to the interview. And America's not racist, but China sure likes making us fight over that. China sure. So do you think that China is invested in skewing our information to make us fight over shiny objects? Of course. 1-6 Commission, same thing. 1-6, the whole thing is misinformation. It's all used and willing dupes. Under the Soviet era, we would talk about dupes, willing dupes like Pelosi. She would be someone who's working with the Soviet communists. If I'd call it dupe because she may not even realize it, but she's playing along. When she lies about the January 6th events and her role and what's happened and tries to politicize it, call it an insurrection, she's playing along with the Chinese regime. That's what's happening. Anyway, so make the big deal the big deal. Paul Ryan has never had a sense of what the big deal was. Now, let me tell you a quick story and give you hope. I learned that phrase, make the big deal, when I ran for Congress in 2010. I ran from September of 2009 until the election in 2010. I ran against a Democrat incumbent in South St. Louis. I lost by a few thousand votes. It was one of the great races of that cycle. I was like the last guy. I fell off the edge and didn't succeed. And one of the people, I barely lost. It was a great race, incredible experience. And we were trying to save the country. It was the Tea Party movement and all. One of the people that supported me in 2009, in 2010, multiple times, was a congressman then. His name is Pete Sessions. He was the head of the NRCC. And I was a Tea Party guy. And he's a Texas conservative. And so we became friends. And we really did become friends. He was very kind, gave me good advice, gave me some money from his campaigns, and helped just counsel me on things. We didn't always agree, but we agreed a lot. And he talked about how the swamp was working, what was happening. He was very good. And so when I lost, I can tell you, when you lose a race for office, 99.8% of the people disappear. They're all gone. The volunteers disappear because you lost. And then especially the powers that be that thought you had a chance to be a part of what they were doing, wherever they were, whatever level, they disappear. Gone. Party folks, all that. And in this case, there were other congressmen and senators and people that helped support me. I won't go into their names. They left. Pete Sessions never left. He stayed in touch with me and encouraged me. And later I became the chairman of the party in Missouri. We stayed friendly. And all these years later, he taught me that phrase, make the big deal the big deal. He kept saying in your campaign, talk to where the voters are so they know. Don't be like Paul Ryan that talks about stupid stuff that voters don't care about. Talk about where the people are. Make the big deal in the life of people in your campaign. And it was very good advice. I often think of it in the things we're doing. Make the big deal. And people that distract you from the big deal, Paul Ryan, are pulling you off course. And that's exactly what he taught me. Anyway, I want to tell a quick story to reflect well on him. It's a story about, I don't know if I ever told him this, but my whole life when I was a boy, I was drawn and always felt a special affinity for, actually kind of tenderness for kids with Down syndrome. In my hometown, there was a family that had a son who was Down syndrome. We used to see him at church all the time. I just always felt this sort of, I actually, when I see kids, people with Down syndrome, it just touches me. And I don't know, I just feel a special sense of tenderness for them. And I feel for them. I don't know why. I often have thought it was something that God did to me to make me more aware of those who are, not like us and suffer and all. And years later, I used to see there's one essay I remember, parents of Down syndrome kids writing about how abortionists attack and target Down syndrome, and how one mother in LA, a columnist, wrote a column that said, I don't see Down syndrome children anymore, and they're all gone because they're aborted. And my child is the great gift of my life. The child had Downs. And so years later, by the way, a couple of years ago, I coached my son's basketball team, and we did the draft. And we got all the way through the draft, and someone said, and there's this one kid, and who's going to want him? And I said, well, what's this? I'm new to the area. I don't know who these kids are. And they said, well, he's got Down syndrome. I said, I'll take him. And we put him on our team, and he was the MVP by far. I mean, he was just phenomenal. Greatest kid, greatest experience, great for me and my players. It was awesome. So Pete Sessions, one of the things I learned after knowing him well, has a son who has Down syndrome, and he has made the big deal of the kid in his life. And he's been a pro-life fighter. Pete Sessions has all this time. It's been extraordinary. And so I call him frequently and I say, what's the big deal? Tell me the big deal in politics. Tell me the big deal. And he told me right after the election, he said, All these people up on Capitol Hill are going to tell you that they figured out how to message and they're really clever and all. And he said Trump's voters, the MAGA voters, brought the Republicans across the line in all these races that they were surprised to win. That was the big deal. He said, not these distractions. And my point here is watch for the distractions, even from the political class, because I trust Pete Sessions. And oh, by the way, one other thing that's really interesting, in 2018, he lost his race after being in Congress for a long time. And it was very irregular in Dallas. There's a whole bunch of things that happened in that election that were very odd. Not just a wave for liberals and all that did happen across the country, but a whole lot of other stuff that went on that was really problematic. So Pete Sessions knows that elections can be poorly run and problematic, and that there's a good chance that there's hijinks where the stakes are high. And it was a big, big deal for the Democrats to try to knock Pete Sessions out of Congress. And the great way the Lord works is Congressman Sessions is from Waco, Texas. And he went back to Waco, kind of going to go on with his life in Texas. And the seat in Waco suddenly opened for Congress. And he ran in a crowded field and won the race. And so he's back in Congress, which is very cool. But he's the one that taught me make the big deal in your life. Make the big deal the big deal. In your life, your family, your kids, in his case, my case, so your spouse, or whatever it is, make the big deal in what you're doing, and watch for the people, the shiny object people, Paul Ryan in this case, who wants to get us off base. There's plenty of things happening in this country and what's going on. And one of the big ones is the threat of the Chinese regime, the communist regime, and the fact that the class in Congress and in power and in the White House will not take on the influence of the communist regime, whether it's on business, Microsoft, still looking at you, still haven't answered the question from Josh Hawley. Senator Josh Hawley asked 2 months ago, do you use chips made in China when you sell your computers to the Department of Defense for $23 billion? Yes or no? No answer. As far as I know, no answer yet. Be good if they answered it. But fentanyl, 70,000 a year, 80,000 a year, 100,000 a year of our young men, a lot of them, mostly men, some women, killed by fentanyl, killed. All comes from China. Comes through our border, but it comes from China. There's guys making it. There's people in charge making the fentanyl from the communist regime in China, which controls every aspect of their economy. And they don't ship fentanyl to America because they have some laws that allow them to do business. No, the communist regime approves who gets rich, who has property rights, who does anything, and they're allowing fentanyl to kill our kids. Make the big deal, right? Make the big deal. We're under assault from the communist regime, and we're playing around with shiny objects like Paul Ryan telling us how he's got it all figured out and how all we need to do is listen to him on leadership. We went down that path. As the late Phyllis Schlafly said, or she used to quote Everett Dirksen, we followed you down that path to lots of losers. We're not doing it again. All right, everybody, I will be with you on Monday, so I will save a message for Memorial Day for Monday, but I hope you'll make sure to say the Pledge of Allegiance, find some time to be quiet time in case you don't see this, and don't forget, make the big deal the big deal. If you get a chance to get to know Congressman Pete Sessions, encourage him. He's a really good guy, a good friend of mine, and he taught me that in lots of ways, not just the phrase, but lots of other ways. So have a great day, everybody. Have a nice weekend. I will talk to you next